Time to go qualifying for the Formula Renault Eurocup at Zandvoort. Qualifying at number one. Two races this weekend, one at 5 o'clock this afternoon and the second at 2:15 tomorrow afternoon. Looking down in the pit lane, the pit apron is still slightly damp, but the track has been drying all the time after a little flurry of rain overnight and then some earlier this morning, but it's drying out. For all these drivers, it's their chance to just assess the circumstances, the conditions as they go around this lap. Still, you don't want to be up on the curb, still holding a bit of moisture. But of course, what the drivers do all want to do is get that wonderful slingshot out of the newly reprofiled and banked Hugenholzbocht, the tight chicane just behind the paddock, where you then feed the cars out into the countryside. And then, of course, at the end of the lap, the newly banked Arie Luijendijk-bocht, a wonderful corner that will slingshot them onto the start-finish straight. But with the track drying all the time, they can go take a higher and higher line without too much risk. But there is a big wall at the top with the Tech Pro barriers to guide them back onto the circuit should they run wide. But caution still in the early laps, I think, something that is very important indeed. After double-headed rounds at Monza, Imola, Nürburgring, Magny-Cours just 2 weekends ago in support of the GT World Challenge, we've got a pair of Brazilians fighting it out at the top. 133 points for Victor Martins and Caio Collet, 131. Then David Vidales, the Spaniard, in third place overall. Franco Colapinto just had a flash shot of him. He is running in fourth place overall. Plenty to play for the Argentinian. There's David Vidales, third fastest. No, it's third highest championship score, not third fastest, waiting for those first flying laps to come in. Again, that superb sweep up through the Slottermacher-bocht and then down through the dip. Blind entry until you're almost upon it at Chevlac, and then the track gets really twisty. The speeds drop down through Masters. Here at turn 9, it's a tight corner as well. Turn 10, which instead of going right, go to the left. That's an important corner too. Often you get overtaken into there, but it's about positioning your car for this, the infield straight that runs down to Hans Ernst Bosch. So a good slingshot out of there really, really is a helping hand. Average age in the Formula Renault series gets lower and lower. Racing absolutely fantastic. So who's going to be at the top of the time charts when a flying lap is on the board? It looks like David Vidales will be one of the first to do so, if not the first. So out of Kumo-Bocht he goes, the penultimate corner, then onto the banked corner. And again, with the banked corner, you have to walk on it to really feel the slope. That's the Arie Luijendijk-bocht. Still weaving to get heat into the tyres. But David Vidales goes top, 1 minute 41.010. That will be broken. As you saw, he wasn't exactly pressing on in the way he would be on a pucker flying lap. But he's got one on the board. And he's faster than William Alatalo, Adrien David, Hugo de Wilde and Reshad Gerous. So two drivers, first and second for JD Motorsport, MP Motorsport with Adrien David, and then Arden in fourth and fifth positions. Roman Stanek, new to play this weekend. He's with MP Motorsport as well, alongside Adrien David, and he's sixth fastest. So, quick fire qualifying session for the Formula Renault Eurocup. This is the first of their two sessions. They have another one tomorrow. Just 20 minutes to put the times up there. And Amaury Cordel is the best of all at the moment. Way quicker. 2.4 seconds quicker than Franco Colapinto now. Tiemann van der Helm is in third. And David Vidales for JD Motorsport in fourth at the moment. But all these times are going to come a-tumbling. 73 is the Dutchman, Tiemann van der Helm. Quick times coming from David Vidales on his second flyer. He's down in fourth place at the moment, but people taking as much as 2 seconds off their best time, still trying to get heat into their tyres, still weaving away. That's how cold it is. Then again, it's the last week in September. This isn't high June or July. William Alatalo goes seventh, looking for other changes. Up, he was seventh, goes third. At the moment, we've got the top 5 runners under 1 minute 40, top 6 runners under that mark. David Vidales goes top, 1 minute 36.1 seconds. Amaury Cordel, 1 minute 36.9, 0.8 of a second between them. But that time will come down. There is Cordel already improving by huge margins. And who else is really making moves? David Vidal is on his next lap, also picking up the pace. He's the driver fastest, 1 minute 36.171 seconds. Lovely sling shot through that final corner. Not quite as close to the ball on the outside as possibly a perfect lap would yield, but it's probably still good enough to put Amaury Cordeel to the top. There we go. On top by 1.8 seconds. So the drivers are really starting to get a hang of this circuit. It's still cool, it's still slippery. If you go out too wide, it's still slightly wet on the curves, but David Vidal he's now improved in his first sector and he's improved in his second sector, but he's got to find a huge margin of time because Cordeel, 1 minute 34.4 seconds, plays Alex Quinn, British racer, 1 minute 35.8 seconds. So 1 3/4 seconds, a gap between first and second. That's very, very unusual in Formula Renault. Normally super close, but I think by the end of the qualifying session it will be. 13 minutes remain out of 20, so time aplenty for others to fight back. And David Vidal goes top from Amaury Cordeel, but by just 0.06 of a second. It's 1 minute 33.891 versus 1 minute 34.089. No, I tell you what, it's changed while I looked at the screens. It was Adrien David going to the top by 0.198 of a second. So it's David Vidal, Cordeel and Hugo de Wilde picking up the pace, as is Reshad de Gerus in 5th place overall, Laszlo Todt in 6th for Bytek. Drivers still front end of their cars looking quite loose. They're trying to brake as late as they can. That was Gregoire Saucy going down into Tarzan. Again, the temptation is to run super deep in the corner. There's a big gravel track, there's an access road beyond, so you can get out the backside of it, but don't waste your whole session. We've got a red flag. Someone has dropped it somewhere around the circuit, unfortunately. Again, get right. Oh, I can see some skid marks off at the side of the circuit. See the top of a car's roll hoop up against the barriers. They're so close in, the cameraman can't quite pick it up, but it looks like it's on the inside of a bank corner. Is that? I was thinking for a second it was on the exit of... No, I know where it is. It's at Gerlachbocht. It's running behind the paddock. The pit buildings are in the background. You can see the main grandstand, the opposite side of the main straight. So it's between Gerlachbocht and the Hugenholzbocht. And at that time, Adrien David topped by 0.198 of a second from David Vidal. The clock has stopped with 12 minutes 15 seconds remaining. Amaury Cordeel in 3rd, Hugo de Wilde in 4th. So for MP Motorsport, French racer Adrien David, he's got the bragging rights, diving straight into the pits. He's spotted those red flags. Chance to go and talk to the team. Again, the drivers, even as they're backing off as they're coming in, running high on the exit of that final corner onto the start-finish straight. And a couple of drivers, including the driver second in the championship, Caio Collet, have not put a time on the board. The others, Petra Pacek, and they're both racing for RACE-GP, and I think they were simply waiting to see. So it's a Finnish driver climbing out. That should be William Alatalo for JD Motorsport, and William was down in 11th place overall. As I say, we can only see the top of the roll hoops. We can't see if there's any wing damage to that car, but Gerlachbocht, you're still slightly climbing behind the pits. It just rises behind the pits quickly to Gerlachbocht, then you drop down into the dip, into the compression, into the left-hand hairpin of Hugenholz. But somewhere between the two of them, William Alatalo against the tyre wall. So for David Vidal, second fastest, just a 5th of a second down. He's following his lap just as the red flag was flown, was actually looking to be even better. Could have taken potential pole. But William Alatalo for JD Motorsport, one of the rookies in the field, will have to scratch his head, and one presumes that's probably the end of his session. Paul Aaron, 12th fastest. In fact, what we have, you have your regular runners and you've got the rookie runners, and we've got two rookies at the top of the field, Adrien David and David Vidal. In 5th place, another rookie, Reshad de Gerus, Laszlo Todt, a rookie in 6th, and another rookie, Alex Quinn, in 7th. And another rookie, William Alatalo, off the circuit. You can see his the point at which he's gone into that gravel trap, and you see the car bogging down, so it did what it needed to do. That will be pulled out of the position where it is now, but that is why we have a red flag. It's an 18-car field. We have 17 cars sitting, waiting patiently the remaining dozen minutes of this qualifying session. But for the Race GP cars of Caio Collet, who's second in the championship, and Petra Pacek, frustration, they haven't put a time on the board. We'll look out for them. Cars number 1 and 3 waiting to go out to play. But championship leader Victor Martin. If I look on the charts, Victor Martin, can't see his car on the timing charts. Maybe he's off the bottom of the screen. Oh no, there he is, down in 13th position. I didn't look so far down the charts to find him. But time to come from him. So William Alotalo will be frustrated. In fact, I noticed the two cars of Caio Collet and Petra Pacek, no real flying laps on the board, but what they have done is 2 pit stops. They obviously did an out, some exploratory laps in, and they just come back in again without a flying lap on the board. So building up they were, but for now they've just got to wait. The weather looks fairly settled now, so they don't have to worry about the arrival of rain, but everyone just wants this car of William Alotalo's to be recovered for JT Motorsport as quickly as possible. 11th fastest at the time. And however good this lap was going to be, it wasn't completed. In fact, effectively only 2 corners old. Tarzan and the approach to Gerlachbocht. But I think the good news at the end of September, we've got high cloud today. It was certainly quite threatening with a little flurry of rain around 9 o'clock this morning. But, well, it's windy. It's Zandvoort. It's tradition. And for those who've never been to this fabulous Dutch circuit that's been modernised extensively in recent years to host a Grand Prix this year, that was the plan, to get Formula 1 back for the first time in seemingly like forever. But it's a great place to come racing. Literally 2 dunes back from the North Sea. Coastal resort of Zandvoort, easy to reach by train from Amsterdam, and just always had a full programme of racing through the years. This year, of course, like so many years, well, like no other year, in other words, we've had the pandemic that has restricted racing, but it's been very, very busy since then. But one thing's always a feature, the Dutch racing series, the Benelux racing series, tend to race here throughout the year, whereas most of the international series come through in summer. This is no longer summer, so they're experiencing circuit conditions that are trickier than what they're accustomed to. But for the Dutch and Belgian racers, this is situation normal. And famously, there are races at certain times over the years around Christmas Day and Boxing Day. They come out to play at Zandvoort, and then of course you're dealing with a short amount of daylight hours and very tricky track conditions. No great swing in temperature, but here the temperature is rising through the day, but still those in the paddock, as you can see, will be wearing jackets wherever possible. It's a chilly day. Victor Martin concentrating, taking a drink. He knows he's got to put a quick time on the board, but that said, his championship rival Caio Collet has not put a time in either. And there is William Alotalo's car. You can see the front left suspension did indeed take a battering against the tyre wall on the outside at Gerlachbocht. So that will need to be fixed. Nothing untoward. The suspension has done what it needed to do when it came into contact with the tyre wall. Tyre looking a little worse for wear, a little flat spotted as well, just as he went off the track at Gerlachbocht. Still the red flag conditions. The drivers know they've got a qualifying session, another one to follow later in this meeting to define the grid for the second of the races, which is tomorrow. But today's race is due to start at the close of play at 5 o'clock here at Zandvoort. Sounds as though with noises in the pit lane that we may be getting a green flag soon, so we can get the final dozen minutes of this 20-minute session underway. Still yellow lights flashing on the starting gantry, so don't jump the gun, but with William Alotalo's car at least lifted onto a flatbed, it shouldn't be too long until the circuit's clear. Petra Pacek, one of 2 drivers who have yet to set a flying lap. Now for Petra, his best result this year, he's got a brace of 8th places, but his teammate Caio Collet has got 2 wins, 2 seconds, a third, and that's why he's at the very sharp end of the field. Just 2 points behind Victor Martin. So it looks as though the rescue vehicles being put back into position at their various access points to the circuit. So all concentration. Fastest driver, Adrian David, car number 17 for MP Motorsport, yellow and black livery. Helps to mark it out, and the red nose of number 12. That's Roman Stanek, new addition this weekend, also for MP Motorsport. Car 27, Hugo de Wilde, young Belgian racer for Arden. And another Arden driver, Alex Quinn, he's 7th fastest at the moment, young British racer. Car 21 in the background, their sister car, that's Richard de Garus, who's the 3rd of the rookies, but 5th overall at the moment, French racer. And car 51, that's the Bitec team, Laszlo Tot, Hungarian. But just look at the Nicola Marinangeli, young Italian who's starting to make strides for Bitec. Saw him racing in the Gulf Championships over the course of the winter, gaining useful single-seater experience. But just look how greasy and cold that little apron is. The sun is not yet round onto that part of the track. Lorenzo Colombo, he's 7th in the championship and at the moment there or thereabouts in qualifying. In fact, he's 10th in qualifying for Bitec, so plenty to be gained. David Vidales and Adrian David, they're the top 2. In fact, the top 4 of them are very, very close on times. Adrian David, David Vidales, Amaury Cordil and Hugo de Wilde. Really small fractions of time between them. Effectively less than half a second between the provisional pole starter, Adrian David, car number 17. Amaury Cordil there, reverse the numbers, you get 71, and Amaury at various points top of the charts, but the track was improving, the drivers were improving at a great rate in that session. Taking a while to get the heat into their tyres, but the times were really starting to come when unfortunately we had the red flag flown when William Alatalo parked it in against the tyre walls rather gently, but still the stoppage while that car's recovered. For FA Racing, it's a little pressure on the shoulders of Tiemann van der Helm to be starring on home ground. Now a degree of frustration for the drivers. They really just want to get out there. They'll be thinking about what they experienced, how they managed to get some modicum of heat into their tyres in the first part of the qualifying session, but they've got to do it all over again. Not rush, get the heat back in their tyres and then start to attack. But the good news is, in all of this, the track will be drying just little by little. It's not warm, there's not much wind, but it will be getting better all the time, every passing minute. Teams waiting for a signal from the officials as to when the session will restart. All drivers on board, obviously ready for quick exit back onto the circuit. 50 seasons of Formula Renault, absolutely extraordinary. It's been such a staple, but not just in the early years. It was mainly in France, obviously, but spread over the years. Track temperature now 12.6 degrees, but the wind is strong, but it's not warming the track enormously. It's 15 degrees, so the temperature's crept up. In fact, it's doubled from when I first saw a thermometer early this morning. And track temperature, when I first looked at the first graphic of the day, it was a round number. It was 0 degrees. No wonder the drivers are struggling to get heat into their tyres, but now come up appreciably since then. But still, not by any stretch of imagination, warm at all. The delay at the moment is not extracting William Alatalo's car. That has been removed, but it's just tidying up the tyre wall at the finish race. Just edged into, but obviously slightly harder than we could tell. So repairs going on at Gerlachbocht. Not a great distance from this pit lane. Effectively, the other side of that main pit building, there's a narrow paddock. The top left of screen is effectively where Gerlachbocht is, but the repairs going on. Shouldn't be long now. Still slightly windy. You get a fluky wind at Zandvoort. You can see those tall flags on the right-hand side of the screen, still blowing fairly gently. It's the ones that you want to look at are the ones on top of the pit building because there's a clearer flow of air onto those. But they're certainly flagpoles that jingle in the wind. Plenty of wind off the North Sea. And this last few days around Northern Europe, there have been very, very strong winds, surprisingly strong. Just looking for signal as to when this session may be restarted. Certainly the drivers ready to go to complete the final 12 minutes of this qualifying session. Full sunshine on the track. And if you haven't seen the latest version, the new banked version of the Arie Luijendijk bocht, here it is, the last corner of the lap, wonderfully banked. And whatever you see and think that looks steep, you go and try and walk it. It's way more steep than you can imagine. And get your line right, and it really ought to give the cars a wonderful sort of cupping sensation as they go around the corner of the start-finish straight. And we've got to see yet in full race conditions if we can get people going around 2 by 2. It's going to be heart-in-the-mouth stuff, but right now in qualifying, you want to do 1 by 1. Time for quiet contemplation for the drivers. A lot of them you'll see with their eyes open or even closed, just assessing the lap. You can sense the movement of their body as they imagine what lies ahead. Bit of a shaking around at Zandvoort. It's quite a roller coaster of a circuit. Plenty of wonderful gradient change and topography to be playing with, and certainly a real challenge for the drivers. In fact, very few places in which you can really relax at Zandvoort. One corner very much feeds almost directly into another. We've got the short infield straight and you've got the main straight, but apart from that, you're constantly on the twist, on the turn, almost nowhere more so than when you leave Hugenholzbocht. You go up over the brow, a slight right, into a long left, into another right, and then you've got Schevelach. If those two corners can't focus a driver's imagination and concentration, I don't know what can.
Will decide the grid, and there's another 12 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this qualifying after one of the cars hit the barriers coming out of
Still waiting for the signal for the restart. It really can't be too long from now, so for all these young drivers, control of their emotions as they just think about what is ahead. Try not to get frustrated by moments they might have had in the sort of 7.5 minutes we had before the red flag was flown. Top 4 runners, Adrian David, David Vidales, Amaury Cordil and Hugo de Wilde clear of the pack. Less than half a second between first and fourth. We know that a good lap could put any of those ones to the top of the charts.
Maybe he is, but maybe he's somewhere behind the pit complex here.
Czech racer Roman Stanek new to the championship this weekend. He knows the team have a good setup because his teammate Adrian David is top of the pile, top of the charts. Roman down in 14th place. But there's a big difference in terms of lap pace so far. And for a lot of the drivers, I think they've been quite cautious building up towards something. And just as some of them, the less confident ones, are about to go and get the flow together, the session would stop. But engines are fired up. We're about to go back onto the circuit. 12.25 minutes remaining. Will Adrian David still be at the top of the pile come the end? I think we'll see an out lap, building up a bit of pace, proper heat in the tyres, and so effectively the third time they cross the start-finish line. Once we get going all over again, then we'll start to see the times improving. All the crews looking down to when the lights are going to go green at pit exit. Some of the drivers have started their engines. The signal is hold it, hold it, hold it. And now we go. 17 cars coming out to play. William Alatallo, unfortunately, 11th fastest in qualifying so far. Not going to be taking any further part after that front left suspension damage. Little off at Gerlachbocht. Delayed the session by some 10 minutes, maybe slightly longer. But for everybody else, they'll just sense as they come out of the shadow of the pit lane, the sun in the sky, the track is drying. It's not a warm day, though. They'll have to bide their time until they've got heat into their tyres. And then, and only then, can they attack and see what they can do in trying to put down their best lap. For a lot of these runners, they're running almost line astern, nose to tail as they leave the pits. What they need to do as well is make themselves a bit of a gap, give themselves space to play. So the first car out of the pit lane is the one that's got no concerns along to that point, but what they'll be looking for is getting heat into their tyres. There's the twisting section along towards Gerlachbocht. So it was just the exodus corner that William Alatallo went off. You could just very briefly see his tyre marks just before the drop down into the Hugenholzbocht. Car 92, Victor Martin, the championship leader from Brazil. Cautious, sensible line, picking up the pace. It's the next time around that really is going to count. So Victor Martin, a lot to do. In fact, I'm calling him Brazilian. Let's call him French. Let's get the right nationality. Caio Collet is Brazil. I think I decided they were both Brazilian. Let's ignore that. Caio is waiting to put a time on the board, but he's down at the bottom of the chart. So what's the tyre temperature like? Where are the damp patches on the track? The damp patches are in retreat. Still little points on the circuit. Just see a little bit of spray coming out of the back. As number 91 sort of came down to earth. That was Paul Aron, Estonian racer, just at the Rob Slaughtermacher box at one of the highest points on the circuit. Says yet to dry out. That's quite interesting. The wind is not doing the job expected of it. But for the rest, as you can see, it's a mottled racing surface. So the drivers have to be very, very aware. Also not go over the curves if you can possibly do so. Victor Martin, his best time, well, 10 seconds down on provisional pole, basically because he was just going into his first really serious flying lap. He'd done one flying lap, an outlap, a flying lap, and his second flying lap for a lot of these drivers is going to be the quicker one. And those that completed the second flying lap, they're the names at the top of the chart: Adrian David, David Vidales, and Amaury Cordil. The times are going to change. Victor Martin's immediately up to 7th overall, but there'll be more to come from him next time around. Be sure of that. The heat still being put into the rubber. Working the car very hard, going a little high halfway around the Hugenholzbocht, this newly banked hairpin behind the pits. Amaury Cordil in 3rd place overall, picking up the pace even better, and looks though he's stringing together a lap that may take him up to the top, waiting to complete it. The target time still 1 minute 33.891, and he beats it. Amaury Cordil goes to the top from Adrian David. 1 minute 33.7 plays 1 minute 33.8. David Vidal is in 3rd, and Tinian van der Helm on home ground goes 4th for FA Racing. Really, really tightening up at the top. Still half a second between the top 4, but just different drivers in that grouping. And Victor Martin will very much expect to be up among them. He's picking up the pace yet again. The championship leader, all really, really good middle sector. He's been mature. He's thought about it, put one flying lap on the board, and now he's in the mix and he's picking up the pace yet more. He's waited for his tyres to come good to get a little modicum of heat in them and just find some grip on this cold September day. Victor Martin into that final corner of the sweep. The target time, 1 minute 33.718 seconds. That's still in the hands of Amaury Cordil for FA Racing. Is it suddenly going to go to Victor Martin? Yes, it is. 1 minute 32.151. He's 1.5 seconds to the good. That was a really, really strong lap. That's why he's leading the championship. Who's going to fight back? David Vidales is improving his form. He's 6th. Will he move up? 2nd place for him. He's down by 1/4 of a second on Victor Martin. What? And suddenly Gregoire Saucy goes up into 3rd place. It becomes 4th because Caio Collet, having not done a flying lap before the race, the red flag came out, has gone top. 1 minute 32.0 seconds. He's just about 1/10 of a second to the good. There's a high line and an even higher line there for Victor Martin. I think he's actually made a mess of Hugenholz Bocht. Scratched this lap, which is a shame because through that first sector he was fastest of anybody. Nicola Marinangeli on the move down the time charts. Is going to come powering up the time charts. Not a lot. He's improved his time, but only up to 13th place. Laszlo Toll improves, but is down in 14th. All the runners have got a sensible time on the ball, but for poor William Alatalo, the track is better now. That's why people are improving. He's the one not taking part. He's the one who damaged his car. He's fallen to the bottom of the pile. Was 11th at the time of the stoppage that he triggered, but unfortunately now 18th. Victor Martin really, really pushing very, very hard indeed. You can just see it in the angle of the car, swooping through the banked Arie Luyendyk Boch. The target, 1 minute, we want to get into the 1 minute 31s if at all possible. 1 minute 31.3. The times are coming down in huge chunks. He's 7/10 of a second to the good. Caio Collet in 2nd place. He's improving his form around this lap. Is it going to be enough to go back to the top? But 7/10 of a second is a very, very big ask. He's in 2nd for Race GP. Is he going to go to the top of the charts? 1 minute 31.369 is the target. Doesn't meet it, but he closes it to half a second. Just under half a second in 2nd place. So 1st and 2nd in the championship. 133 points to 131. Top of the charts right here. Top of the rookies is David Vidales, but suddenly Petra Patacek has just moved past him up into 3rd overall. So for Race GP, they didn't put times on the board before the red flag came out, and suddenly their runners, Caio Collet, Petra Patacek, up into 2nd and 3rd positions. Waiting for the track to come to them was a very, very good decision, so it seems. Adrien David at the time of the stoppage was top of the charts. Where is he now? Down in 8th place. That's how fast the track's improving, but this lap is looking a decent one, but he's 1.4 seconds down on the ultimate pace. That's how fast things change. A couple of the drivers getting a little bit caught up in traffic. David Vidales in 4th place, and someone up in front of them has been locking up their brakes. In fact, I think that was Amaury Cordil. We saw a puff of smoke up ahead of David Vidales. For JD Motorsport, David has got to find 2/10 of a second, and then he'd be up with Petra Patacek, but these orders are changing very, very quickly indeed. Franco Colapinto in the background there in car number 11 was taking quite a strange line out of Hans-Ernst Boch, possibly going back towards the pit. A lock up there from Amaury Cordil. That's how hard he is pushing. But a driver who flirted with the top of the table, down in 7th place overall for FA Racing. Things have changed really quickly since this session restarted. And in fact, the target's gone out even further. Victor Martin has just gone through 1 minute 31.215 seconds, faster and faster in the lead of the qualifying by 0.6 of a second. Amaury Cordil gains a place, but he's 1 second down. Where are the changes coming from? Lots of drivers improving their sector times at the moment. But that's a big advantage. 0.6 of a second, Victor Martin over Caio Collet. Petra Patacek back, in fact he's precisely, or as near as can be, within 100th of a second down on the pole sitter. Top rookie at the moment, Paul Aron. He's really coming good for ART Grand Prix, 5th fastest overall. In fact, he's very, very close to 3rd. So look for him. Gregoire Saucy, he's the driver between them in 4th place. He's got to find less than 1/10 of a second. He's going to do it that this time around to go up into 3rd place. The order is changing all the time. We've got 3 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Gregoire Saucy improves his time, does not improve his position. He's 0.04 of a second down on Petr Petacek. I thought he'd done enough. We are dealing in very, very small fractions of a second. But a driver who needs to deal in almost whole seconds is down in 8th place overall. Adrian David, here he is, car number 17. Pushing on again, you got through the penultimate corner. Kumo, you've got to have a clean exit so you can sweep into the Arie Luijendijk bocht. And then use the banking well, be brave, go up towards the wall if you want, carry as much momentum as you can through the corner onto the start-finish straight. Adrian David fallen tonight, up to 7th he goes, so things changing all the time. If he found another 0.003 of a second, he'd be up in 6th, he'd be ahead of Amaury Cordeel. But still out front, car 92, Victor Martin. In fact, he just stretches it, but no, he hasn't. 0.608 of a second is still his margin over Caio Collet, but through the first section of the circuit he's gone faster than anybody. Caio Collet matches it within 6 thousandths through the second sector. Which one of them is going faster? Not such a brilliant middle sector for Victor Martin. Maybe he made a slight mistake, didn't spot it, but waiting to see what Caio Collet can do through that as well. Not yet got to the end of the second sector. Still Victor Martins, 1:31.215 seconds. First sector good, second sector not so good. Is it going to be an improvement? I don't quite think so. 31.292, so he's within 0.08 of a second. Doesn't look as though Caio Collet will be able to improve on second place. He's still lapping well, but not quite as fast as Victor Martin. Victor again taking that really, really high line at the Hugenholz bocht. It's all about getting the fastest exit speed you can, because you've got to carry the car, the momentum up over the crest through the Rob Slottermacher bocht, that wonderful sweeper, and out to the right, and then down the drop into Schäfflach, really working the car hard. You can see the attitude there, putting a lot of pressure on those outside tyres, and it's worked. He's up by 0.119 of a second in the first sector. This second sector looks pretty promising as well. No traffic ahead of him. That's good news indeed for Victor Martin. Once he gets up to the turning point to Hans Ernst Bocht, just about to reach it now, goes through the second sector. I think that's a pretty good second sector time as well. And again, Caio Collet about half a lap behind him, setting lap times within 100th of a second in each of the sectors. It's so tight at the top between the two championship leaders, but it's ahead on points Victor Martin, ahead on the qualifying sheet Victor Martin at the moment. The checkered flag is out to greet him. Will there be an improvement on this lap? 1:31.215, his best lap. Very close, just over 1/10 of a second down. That should be good enough, unless there's an astonishing end to the lap from Caio Collet, but I don't think he's got quite enough in the bag. I would say it's going to be qualifying session number 1, truncated, curtailed for a while, and then restarted to Victor Martin. That was a very, very good, consistent run, and pushed very hard by Caio Collet, but Martin just had the legs, and in the end it was just over 1/3 of a second, the gap back to Collet. So Collet tried, but just wasn't quite fast enough. Very impressive through the final sector. Any change in behind it still Petr Petacek, but only by 24 thousandths of a second ahead of David Vidales, who's the top rookie. Any late improvements, I fear we're not going to get them. And in fact, what was happening at the end of the session is the drivers were finding more and more speed in the first third of the lap, but the middle sector was proving more of a problem, and the final sector also no improvement. So the session kept on changing, but at the end it was Victor Martin from Caio Collet and Petr Petacek and the top rookie David Vidales in 4th place overall. Interesting session, frustrating for some, but it was about keeping the focus, getting the heat in the tyres, and not making any mistakes on a track that was still a little bit soggy out towards the outer reaches. Fine if you stayed on the clear racing line, the dry racing line, but any mistake was sort of punished that little bit more. And in fact, I dare say that's what happened to William Alatallo to bring out the red flag. Probably just went a little bit too close to the edge of the circuit, hit the curbs, they were wet, off he went at Gerlachbach. But for Victor Martin, very, very good job indeed. For Caio Collet, gave it his best, but in the end, 0.127 of a second. In fact, the final lap was the best lap for the driver in second place. But for Victor Martin, he did the job in advance, about a lap or so ahead of that. Caio Collet in second, Petr Petacek in third. The top rookie, David Vidal, is just ahead of Hadrian David Look at that, just dealing in thousandths of a second. Amaury Cordil pushed hard. Franco Colapinto, the Argentinian, in there. Gregoire Saucy, 9th. Top 10 completed by Paul Aron, also a rookie, and Alex Quinn as well. And the driver who suffered most, who ended up way off the bottom of the charts, and the track was wetter, he fell off, William Alatallo. Interesting qualifying session. I'm sure there's going to be some fantastic racing. And let's look back at the highlights. The track was still slightly greasy at the start, and David Vidales pressed very, very hard indeed early on for JD Motorsport. And then it was a question of assessing the track conditions. Amaury Cordil in 71 was really pushing on. 32, David Vidales, again, just going faster and faster. But out came the red flag. William Alatallo had slid off the edge of the circuit. There is the Finn climbing out. Frustrated, slightly broken front suspension. He'll be back come the race. But while the cars had to sit in the pits during the red flag, the conditions were drying all the time. You can see the sun on the noses of the cars as they swung back out, and it was about focus, getting the heat back into their tyres, taking odd lines, if you will, at the Hugenholzboch, but it really started to work for Victor Martin. He went to the top of the time charts. He then improved on his time. There was a big push, a challenge from his championship rival, Caio Collet, but come the end, 0.127 of a second was all it took, and that's what Victor Martin had in the bag to take pole position.